Today's guest is someone who brings transformation with a twist of sparkle and a whole lot of soul. Jay Harvey-Yin is a speaker, coach, and mentor with over 30 years of experience spanning entrepreneurship, beauty therapy, education, and mindset mastery. She blends traditional business wisdom with spiritual alchemy. Think Reiki, NLP, and Timeline Therapy, with a grounded, joyful approach that helps women move from stuck to unstoppable. Jay is passionate about helping women navigate life's foggy moments, reconnect with their intuitive power, and step forward with clarity, confidence, and just the right dose of magic. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you so much for having me. I always like listening to those things.
Oh,
Oh, I'm actually a bit good.
I'm quite good at this.
Like, because you're so busy doing the thing that you forget all the things that you've done, so it's nice to listen.
And it is nice to be on the interviewee side of things as well, isn't it? Just like I can just take it easy, show up, and answer the questions.
Delicious. Bring it on.
So we first had an interview. I looked back today. I haven't re-listened to it, but it was right back at the beginning of the podcast. July the 1st, 2022. Can you believe it's been almost 3 years? And it was season 2. This episode's going to go out in season 14. So,
I'm so
yeah,
proud of you.
yeah.
I
So,
get proud, but I get to be proud.
yeah, you totally can be.
Oh, really?
So thank you for being here. You've been, obviously, you were right there at the birth of the podcast. And here
Amazing.
we are again, forever growing and evolving. So I've been receiving your emails and just keeping up to date with all of the things that you've got going on. And I think we even talked in our last podcast about how you are continually evolving, learning new things, sharpening the sword, shall we say. And so I've invited you back on to talk about some of the things that you're up to at the moment, because you're a world of wisdom and yeah, such a generous spirit, and love a little bit of sparkle and magic in our lives. Who better to bring it?
Thank you. It's my motto. I like a bit of sparkle, a bit of glitter, and fabulosity. Like I think fabulosity is my life's work. Bringing the magic and the sparkle back to people's lives, no matter what it looks like for them. Because sometimes, I was working with a client the other day, and she's really super introverted and quite shy, and I reflected and I loved working with her. And she said, I thought you might be a bit too much. And I'm like, no, because I'm a Gemini. I can do it all. I can bring all the personalities, multiple one, depending on what's needed for the client. But she found her fabulosity, even though she didn't realize it. And she actually just messaged me just before and said, that she was reflecting on something we'd done together. And, you know, it's such a good thing to do in life.
Yeah, spread the sparkle and
Spread the
make
sparkle.
yeah, and help people find their fabulosity.
Absolutely. And I think the bottom line is that we all have so many stories. And since we last spoke, I became a master practitioner of timeline therapy and NLP. And, and also I came out as a witch. And I think I just did that at the very last um, podcast, and we were going to talk about that. But since then, I every week teach business to witches in a program called Priestess, and I love doing that because it blends magic and traditional business, modalities and things. But what I was going to say is that it all comes back to what we think about ourselves and that inner voice inside our head, doesn't it? And and since I did this training, obviously when you learn a new modality, you are the student again, which I love. And so I had to go through all of that, all of my muddiness, all of the stuff that I thought that I'd gotten rid of at the ripe old age of 55 for one more week. And and in that process of being vulnerable again and looking at all those limiting beliefs and peeling those layers down, I realized that that's where it's at for most women. Men too,
Mm,
men too. But we have so many stories that aren't even ours, that we don't even realize this. They're buried so deep, almost in our DNA. And in fact, epigenetics will tell you that it is in our DNA from our grandmother's DNA, that we still have those stories, that this process that I do now helps you smash them and get away. So you know, move past them, learn the lessons from the past, but not have that same emotional charge. So it's brilliant.
amazing.
I think that, I've sort of pivoted in my own career because I was, I've coached for a long time and I've been in business for a long time. And I was like, yeah, I'm all about fabulosity. Yes. But even in business, the stories come up.
God, more than ever, I reckon.
Yes, because you're pushed on those so that's why I love coaching the way I do, because I bring the mindset stuff and then this 30 plus years of experience. God. Really shocking to say that to me, because I just look,
You look
30.
fabulous.
Um,
Fabulous.
it's quite scary that my birthday's coming up on the weekend, and I'm going to be 56, which is close to 60. And I'm like, oh, that feels a little, no, I don't know what it feels like. It's just I'm in a different bracket now. I've moved
Don't
up.
you reckon, like, I turned 51 just a few weeks ago. I love being in my 50s.
I
The
agree.
best. I mean, there's some stuff, like you said, there's like you had to work through a whole bunch of the stuff, and it is an ongoing process, and there are stages in our lives where those things are more prevalent as well, aren't there? Like the Chiron return
Oh,
when we
yeah, all
turn
of
50. So there's
that.
all that kind of like, it's like getting in in the wardrobe. No,
I,
keep that, chuck that away.
I,
Like,
I agree. I think being in your 50s is phenomenal. Have loved my 50s. I still love my 50s. But I think the thing that my daughter said to me the other day, she said, Mum, you're close to 60 now. And I was like, in the olden days, I would think 60 is so old,
ancient.
but I still feel vibrant. I feel like I've got a lot to still offer this world. And when people call me ma'am or whatever, I'm like, you call a ma'am, sure, I've got a few crinkles where I didn't have them before, but that's okay. But it's an interesting phenomenon as you age, because I think your spirit doesn't quite age.
Well, it's,
Like,
yeah, I've
like,
heard of that. Like our spirit being like, it's what we're born with. So it's like this childlike curiosity and energy. If you can tap into that, then yeah,
believe
you forever feel that inside you, don't you?
Oh, 100%. And I think you do feel that. So sometimes when I walk past the mirror or somebody calls me ma'am, I'm like, what? What? Because I forget, that I did that, and it's only my cheeky little monkey daughter who's, going to be 22, says, Mom, you're going to be 60. I'm like, oh, shut up. I am not. It's fine. I'm going backwards. I'm aging backwards. I'm going to live to the ton anyway. Who cares? So I've got plenty of time. But yeah, no, I think it's so interesting. Life. Life is my jam, like I just feel like I'm an observer, and I love to understand the nuance of life, you know. I think that was my soul mission, aside from fabulosity, which, by the way, I found out I thought I made up fabulosity,
Oh,
but I didn't, Nadine.
really?
It was from 1683.
Really?
Oh my God. So my new theory, and no one can disprove it, is that that was me in a past life. And I made it up then, and I'm still living it now, like bring that on. But anyway,
Love it.
I don't even know what the question was, where we're at, but
I don't know
hey,
if we were at a question yet.
yeah, probably not. Let's do a question.
Well, you were talking about your like a couple of things popped up for me that aren't in my questions, but that's okay. Questions we can use if we get lost.
Yes, perfect.
my list anyway. Um, Super interested in timeline therapy. I have heard about it before, but can you describe what that is and how that works? And like, yeah, like,
Please let me. It's fantastic. Okay. So with traditional talk therapy, so first of all, timeline therapy is not therapy. I don't know why they put it
okay,
in.
okay,
So strike that, but just stay with me. Traditional talk therapy requires you to relive the experience over and over and over again. And sure, it has value, but it also, you run out of time. And then it's like, oh, let's see you at next session. Now, where were we up to? And I love therapy. I have a therapist, but it's not always productive because you're living in the traumatic experience. So with timeline therapy, what we do is we first of all go through quite a deep questioning process. I'd usually do this in a day because I find
okay,
it just knock it out of the ballpark, make space, and then I coach my clients through the space and the new strategies and things that they've learned from that. So we ask a whole lot of questions anyway, and then we deal with anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. And what we do is, so it's quite an active imagination. It's almost like hypnotherapy in a way, but you're totally aware. Although I tell your conscious mind to go and pop over and sit on the chair in the corner and do the square root of 667,922 or whatever, so that it's not concentrating. Because I really want to talk to your subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of all of the activities. And there's a couple of curious things about the subconscious mind. One, um, its main job is to keep us safe. So, two, it has a negativity bias. And three, it doesn't understand negations. So let's just stay with that for a minute. So, so with the time, I'll come back to that. So timeline therapy, what we do is we imagine a timeline, and there's a process. But the short answer is that we go above the timeline. We go back to the very first time that you felt whatever emotion we did. So say we're doing anger. We'll go
okay,
back to anger, and you have to trust me and trust your subconscious mind. And I have a habit of naming mine. My subconscious mind is called Mildred, actually. Um, and she's beautiful and I love her. She's sometimes very annoying. But anyway, we go back to the first time, but we rise above the timeline. So we're looking down on the event. And when we look down on the event, we have the benefit of distance. And so we're observing the event. And then all of a sudden, I will ask lots of questions and we discover the lessons from that event. And then there's a process and we go in and it's gone, the anger has gone altogether, and then we move on. We recalibrate it through your timeline. So timeline therapy has been used for a long time. Now King Charles, but Prince Charles back in the day used it or endorsed it for use for soldiers when they came back from war, that had symptoms of PTSD, because traditional talk therapy, they would have to relive the experience. Whereas with timeline therapy, they could go back, learn the lessons from the experience, and totally recalibrate. So you end up resourcefully being able to use the anger moving forward if you need it, but you don't have that same charge. So let me give you an example. So let's talk sadness. So one of the saddest moments in my life was the moment my dad passed away. Luckily, we were all there with him, and it was actually, quite a gift in the end. But every time I thought about it, I'd get all choked up, and anyway. So I went back to sadness. But interestingly, the root cause of sadness for me in my situation, it doesn't always have to be in this timeline, was actually an ancestral um, event. And I
okay.
went back to a wartime event where it was almost like the killing fields. And I saw all this just, you know, ridiculous, mindless destruction of human life. And um, and it was sad to me. That was like that wasn't mine to carry. Anyway, so I did the thing, learnt the lessons, spewed them out, and then you test on an event. And so the event that to make sure it's gone. So the event that I went back to was the death of my father. And I just wasn't sad anymore. In fact, I saw it as the most beautiful, beautiful experience. We were so lucky to have been with him. We were all together as a family. It was all the things that he wanted it to be, blah, 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 blah. And so I can still be sad when it's appropriate now in my life, but when I think back, it's gone. So it's the same with anger. So you can when we go back, the root cause can actually be, it's quite woo, can be past life or it can be ancestral. One of my events was the moment I was born. Fear. And it's funny because I was forceps delivery. I was an emergency. I was early and I was jaundice. And back then in the dark ages of time when I was born in England, they used to put jaundice babies in the window. I never
Right. Yes.
I never knew that. And so one of the learnings that I had from this event was there is so much sunshine. And I was telling my mom about it because I was like freaked out. Oh my God, I was like looking at my birth, like, what the hell? How did that even happen? And
Wow.
and she said to me, well, you were jaundice. And obviously fear for me came from the minute I was born because I was pulled out early forceps, it's a bit dramatic. Of course, I have to come into this world in a dramatic way. But yeah, so the beautiful part about timeline therapy is that it's just so powerful. I can't even tell you. So basically we do this and then throughout that questioning process, I will listen to you as you're saying things. And so there are some limiting beliefs that come up through the questioning and I'll just be writing them down. And then at the end, after we've cleared all the emotions, I'll say, oh, and do you still believe that you're stupid? And they're like, what are you talking about? And because somewhere along the line in the discussion, they said, oh, I'm too dumb to do that, or I can't be successful because I wasn't good at school or something like that. So I will bring that up and they go, I didn't say, did I say that? And I'm like, interesting. So then we just check in on all of those limiting beliefs. So if they're still prevalent, we'll jump on the timeline and we can do it for limiting beliefs as well, which is really powerful. And then, there's a few other bits and pieces in the thing, but as we coach through, the thing that I like to do, because I'm an action taker. If you've known me a long time, I don't muck around. And so if I notice something coming up, I will say, oh, I just heard you say something about rejection, for example, or disappointment or something like that. Tell me about that. And then we'll dive into that. And I go, I feel like it's still relevant. Just close your eyes down for me. Let's jump on the timeline and get rid of that. So then we go in the moment and clear that. And there's no waiting till the next session. Each thing takes about 10 minutes, like it's so fast. And obviously by that point, my clients are very well comfy with the whole process and me. So sometimes it's quick, and they just get boom, 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 boom. And they're like, oh gosh, it's gone now. It's crazy. Saying that, I believe that people are kind of like onions. And, there's that old saying, devil at every level. And so it's not necessarily a one and done. Sometimes we have habitual, like say at my age, I've been running these programs and these strategies and these beliefs for a bloody long time. So my behaviors have been influenced by those beliefs. Whether or not I still kind of believe them on the surface, they might be buried. So sometimes we might need to do a refresher. Things come up, or we might have to talk about what strategy we're running and how we can pattern interrupt that. So I just love it. Like I literally would do breakthrough days every day of my life if I could. Probably kill myself because it's quite full on, but it's so good. Like it's so good, and I've done it for men, women, and children. And I think that it's so profound and it's so fast. So you don't have to wallow in it, and then we clear all this space, which sometimes people don't even know what to do with now because they've got all this now what? Like, what do I do? So that's why I coach people through usually around 3 months so that we can fill that space, not all of it, but fill that space with resourceful, useful um, things to take their life forward. So I just love it. Can you tell?
Amazing. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. And it's like a one and done situation. Do
Well,
things come back? I know you said there's layers, but
they do. Look, it just depends. I love chocolate, right? And so I may have a belief that I want to give up chocolate, and I might be right at the front of the room, ready to give up chocolate. But we're multidimensional, multifaceted. So it might last for a while. It might
mm,
sit for a while. I'm using chocolate as the example because people can relate to it. And you might be good for a while, but then other things, other influences, people come and
mm,
buy you as a gift, and now it's a temptation, or whatever. So I think yes, it can be completely gone, but you have to believe it and want it wholeheartedly, and then run the new strategies and new ways of being. So yes, it can be gone,
mm.
um, but like for me, sadness is completely gone. I don't have any negative connotation with sadness anymore. It's totally resourceful. But there are other things, like for me, disappointment is something that stemmed deep. And I've got so many examples of that. And so every now and then disappointment comes up for me, and I jump back into an unresourceful state. And then I get on with my coach and go, okay, we just need to do something else. Go on up, kind of thing. So yes and no is the answer. Like I could say, yeah, 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 book in with me and it's all over and done with. Well, yeah, maybe, but not all.
It takes some commitment, I guess, and someone has to be ready. But we're so like we naturally create our stories, right?
Yeah.
And then we live things like the chocolate thing. Or I stopped drinking alcohol a few years ago,
Yeah.
and like the stories that I can only have the chocolate. I can only have a good time with the chocolate. And
Yeah.
then you kind of seek out proof of having a good time with the chocolate, yeah?
Oh
And
my
so
God.
and so you create this whole reality based on something that you've made up
100%. Let me
because
go.
you need to reinforce that that's your
Oh,
truth.
true. Let me tell you why. So remember those 3 points that I talked to you about the subconscious mind, right? So the first one is it wants to keep us safe.
Mm,
That's pretty self-explanatory. So it'll repeat things. It has a negativity bias. So in
mm,
order to keep us safe, it's looking for
yeah.
negatives. It's looking for danger, Will Robinson, everywhere it goes, right? And then the other thing is that it doesn't understand negations. So in our brains, we have this thing called the reticular activating system. So this is kind of layered and I'm simplifying it, but hopefully it makes sense to everybody. So the reticular activating system looks for evidence to prove the subconscious right.
Mm,
So you constantly, it's true. Like you are looking for evidence to say, I only can have a good time when I'm drinking alcohol or eating chocolate or whatever. Or the best reward is chocolate. So then your subconscious looks to find it. Like it's an example, when you think you're going to buy a red car and you think, I'm going to buy a red car because there's no red cars. And then all of a sudden all you can see is the red car. It's crazy. Or pregnancy. Like you think, oh, I'm the first in my group that's pregnant, and then all of a sudden, every Tom, Dick, and Harry you see is pregnant. So that's the reticular activating system. The other thing is that it doesn't understand negation. So we have to be careful with the voices that we tell the stories, like you say, but the thoughts that we have and what we speak into our subconscious. Um, so, for example, I always use the example of fat, right? Because most people understand it. And I've battled with my weight my whole life. Delete, delete, delete. I'm a new person who is dealing with a healthy outlook to life. We have to replace it with something positive. So, but in the old days, I would say, I would learn to, in my weight loss journey, I would say, I'm not fat. I'm not fat. I'm not fat. So I'm telling Mildred, I am fat, because she doesn't understand negations, right? So
Okay.
and then she's searching for evidence. So every time I walk past a mirror, I notice every single little flaw, or I notice that the chocolate is on special to reinforce the fatness, right? So I was like, oh my God, what the hell? So I feel like I'm coming out the other side of this journey. It's been a long one since I was very, very little. Um, and so now when I notice myself saying that, I will say delete, delete, delete. Usually, if I can say it out loud, there's power in the spoken voice. I will. But if I'm, on a plane or something, I can say it in my head. It works well too. And then I replace it with something that is resourceful. So now I say it's safe to be thin.
Yeah,
It's
quite different.
safe to be thin. So my nervous system is relaxed because they know it's safe. I'm reminding Mildred that I am safe, and I'm saying I am thin. So there are times when I don't say thin. I might choose other words when, I'm feeling a little heavier than I want to be or whatever. But the bottom line is that she listens.
Mm,
So we have to be very careful with what we say
yeah.
internally. That's an important thing for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's insidious, isn't it? Like
Oh,
you can think that you're over it and but you have to be very consciously
aware
aware
until it,
and like
yeah,
actively like paying attention all the time because you can think, well, I've experienced it, and I did a little bit of tapping, and I think you've done tapping. Like I was going through some stuff, and I was tapping with it, and I was like, I feel much better. And then gradually over time, not doing it, and then go, oh, far out, Brussels sprout.
oh,
The cycles of the negative self talk, they're in there, and it's so
absolutely.
familiar
Oh,
and
so familiar.
so like
It's just ingrained, and that's why
under
it's
the
like
surface.
it's habitual too, because we're used to running those programs.
Mm,
I have a couple of power questions that I teach my clients to embody. So when they notice something like that, that's some mean girl comment, the first question is to ask, is it true? Is
mm,
that true or is that not true? And so then you kind of go, oh, wait a minute. Actually, it's not true. And then as humans, we are meaning making machines. We make things mean. Oh, we just make it up. If we don't know the answer, we just make it up. It's fact, You see someone walk in the door and they've got a grumpy face, they must hate me.
yes.
Not that they've just had a flat tire and they're, running on 2 hours of sleep. We always make it about
Mm,
ourselves. So we ask, what else could this mean? So we take ourselves out of the picture
mm,
and think about what else it could mean. And then we speak another narrative true, give other possibilities. So I find those questions really handy because they just stop you in your tracks. Is it true? Am I just making this shit up again? Oops, I said a bad word.
oh, that's okay.
Good. Sorry, people. Yeah, just lucky it wasn't the other one. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, I don't know where we're going with that, but yeah, so I
Is it
think it's
true? Yeah, that's brilliant.
yeah,
Because
it's so simple.
it could easily stop that. Is Mildred your subconscious?
Yeah,
Stop her dead in her tracks.
100%.
Oh,
Mildred, you're making stuff up again, and then it just sort of, I feel like when I give Mildred, my subconscious, a personality and a name,
mm,
it makes it easy for me to sort of communicate with
mm,
her. I've got another interesting fact for you. Um, did you know that it only takes 90 seconds to process an emotion?
oh,
Interesting, that, isn't it?
okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah, because we can real hang on to those things, can't we?
it's the story.
Yeah.
So, what women particularly are experts at doing, and we learnt this from our grandmothers and mothers, and it's ingrained in us. Um, so we we learn to disconnect
Mm,
to cope. So we don't, but innately we need to feel in our body. The more we get into our body, that's how we process emotion. It's not a thought, it's a body function. And so, have you ever noticed that when a baby cries at the supermarket, that all the mothers move because they're processing the anxiety, they're processing that leftover emotion, also a way to soothe the body. Interesting fact. Anyway, so what happens with, and I call it a 90-second wallow. A dear friend of mine, Narelle, and I don't know who coined this, the 90-second wallow, but I've adopted it as my own, but I always like to say, just in case it was her, I think it was. I might have stolen it. So sorry, thanks, Narelle. Anyway, so I say to my clients, allow yourself the 90 seconds. Oh my God, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling really anxious, or I'm feeling really angry in this moment. Rather than disconnecting and going up into the mind, drop into the body and move and allow it and say, where is it? Oh my God, it's in my left elbow. It's green. It hurts. It's, whatever. Just describe it, but don't judge it. So we're not making it bad or anything. We're just describing it and feeling it. And then I encourage my clients to move if they can, if it's appropriate, because obviously can't always just it's in my elbow, people might hear a goose, but just allow that to process. And then it stops the storytelling in our tracks, because then we go into a loop, go into this loop, because the feeling becomes a thought, becomes, an action becomes a result. So if this is the thought loop, and so if we feel the emotion and deal with the emotion, it's dissipated. We don't have it. It doesn't necessarily come into story time. And that it's the story that keeps repeating, and we embellish.
Yes. Oh,
Oh my God, we're such good storytellers. It's crazy.
yes. Oh my God, I can just picture myself doing it.
I know.
And like just and the blah 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 the chatter that goes on.
I know. And that's when I sort of say, oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I doing? And movement
Yeah.
helps process that guilt and self-judgment and all of those things that come once you notice. Because often we go, oh, I'm doing it again. Oh, I'm terrible, I'm hopeless or whatever. If you just go, oh, I'm doing it again, delete, delete, delete. Mildred, we're fantastic. I'm just going to move now. Woo! Next thing you know, it's done.
Jump up and down.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I am silly, and I'm silly on purpose, because I think the more we play and the more we connect with the silly side, the pressure comes off, and we're less judgy. Like little children aren't judgmental. They just see. My mum tells me a story that we moved from England to New Zealand. And of course, there's a high percentage of Maori population. And I went to my very first day at school. This is one of the only stories from my childhood that my mum can remember. And I came home and she said, how was your first day? Did you make any friends? And I said, yes, yes, I did. And she said, tell me about them. What are they like? And I said, they're brown. Because I was 5 and obviously I hadn't seen.
You're from England.
Then at that point, it's probably a bit different now, but and there was no judgment on it. And Mum said to me, oh, Jay, you can't say that. And I was like, but Mum, she is brown. I'm white. Like, I'm so white, I glow in the dark. So I was just making an observation. It wasn't a judgment. And I think sometimes we just get stuck in the judgment because we're so scared about what people think, all of the stories, so it's fascinating. Human behavior is so fascinating.
Yeah, very fascinating.
Love it.
And I guess that goes, well, we've got that kind of the inner critic, all of that sort of psychology, but and so you've got that going on with your business, with the timeline therapy and helping people or women in their own businesses, right? Mostly
mostly. Yeah.
helping them with that kind of negative self-talk and those limiting beliefs that could be stopping them from moving to the stepping into the next level, for example. But you've got the magic that comes in as well.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's the that idea of the abundance and
I think
gratitude and all of those kinds of things that you
absolutely.
weave into it as well. So they're kind of same but different.
100%. I think that there are lots of different lenses in life. Um, I have been across all of them, the positive psychology. I've been typical business, that very masculine business. I've been in the real woo space. I've skirted on the spiritual, in the conscious community. And then now I'm in the witch community. And I kind of am I've always been Switzerland. I'm an observer and I love holding space for all that because there's room for all of that. And I take the bits that I
Mm,
need from all of it. For me, magic is intention plus action plus free will. That's what magic is. And that's what coaching is for me. And that's what living is for me. That's what learning is for me. I'm a huge learner, but there's no point, there's that old adage, knowledge is power, but actually, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is taking up space in your brain if you do not use it. So, knowledge without action is a waste of time because it just makes you feel shit about yourself, or you might be interesting at a party because you can say one thing about a thing. But, you know, I believe in action taking over everything else. And magic is setting an intention, whether you do it through spellcraft or whatever you do, and then taking the action and making sure that there's free will because you can't make anybody do anything that they don't want to do. So for me, that is magic. That's what it's all about. And I just think that life is too short not to have a giggle and sparkle and wonder. That's why I coin these things with, silly names like fabulosity and, because I think that it stops you in your tracks. I can hold my own in a business meeting. I've been in business for 35 years, I've done it a lot. And I've had businesses that were very small, right up to seven-figure businesses in my life. But at the same time, women in business, their mind, they need a combination because we are not just doers, we are beers and we are emotional beings. And I think often, and this is a gross generalization, so please don't come after me, anybody, but women in the workforce are working in a patriarchal society, and we are trying to bring elements of our natural nurturing and community building sense into business in a structure that is quite masculine,
mm,
quite do. And I think there's a resurgence at the moment in business where we want to, you know, women are brilliant business owners. They're so conscious of the environment and their community and impact, and they care about their employees. There's so much beautifulness of it. But on the other side of the coin, sometimes they don't know how to harness that masculine energy that
mm.
them. So it's about balancing, both sides. So that's why I have the traditional and the science with the woo. I call it practical woo, where you marry those things and you take what works for you and you just let the rest of it go. It doesn't matter. I think that's important. And in this iteration of my business, I'm very woo. I incorporate energy healing in every business session. Like, what the hell? Who does that? And I also bring in the oracle cards or the tarot in every session. And it's interesting because I have quite a few male clients as well. And if I forget, they're the ones who are mine. Because they probably don't do it on their own ever. Whereas some of my clients have got a deck or two and they're just
Yeah.
like, oh, whatever. But the men, oh my Lord, they're like, what did the card say? And then they're like, oh my God, it's exactly what we've been talking about. And I'm like, interesting that, you know, it's so cool. I just love that. But just be coming at it, we forget why we went into business in the first place when we're stuck in the minutia of being in business. And my mission with my business magic program is to bring the magic and the sparkle back to your business and to remind you why you wanted to do it in the first place, and then empower you with the dumb stuff like systems and all that stuff that, it's not that sexy, but has to be done. And that's all successful businesses need those fundamental things. And a lot of women just, and I've been guilty of it in my past, where you just grow by the seat of your pants, and we don't use words like strategy or whatever.
Spreadsheet.
Kind of thing, because it's scary, but actually you can just do it the way that works for you because it's your business. But it's funny, a lot of my clients are like, oh, wow, I feel like I've been given permission. Like, you didn't need my permission, but if you need it to get through, go on, And I don't do accountability either as a coach, but some of my clients need accountability. So I'll say, I'm just going out on a limb. I need that by tomorrow, kind of thing. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know where we're up to, but I think that was a good, interesting conversation.
Yeah, that was good. Women in business leadership. Yeah, that whole thing. I've had quite a few guests on in recent times, talking about even and often in relation to the self talk and that sort of stuff. Silencing the inner critic, learning how to use your voice more authentically. Speaking with confidence. Like there's a theme of like this change in direction that we're going in, the age of Aquarius, and it's something that we haven't seen before. So we kind of don't know what it's supposed to look like. And we are caught in that, for women especially, who feel like there's something that they want to give, but they're in they don't know what it looks like, because it's like you can't fit it into the old way.
I had an interesting conversation with someone the other day in one of my mastermind groups, and I was doing a little presentation on AI, and she said she was blown away by it. She was like, "Oh my God!" And she said the younger generation, they are going to just know this stuff, and our generation is so far behind. And I said to her, and the point I'm going to make, or hopefully going to make, is that whenever we learn something new, or there is a new cycle, so this age of Aquarius, this new cycle, this new way of being, we have the experience that comes with living. And so even though something might be new, we are not new humans. And what I was saying to her, my concern is that, yes, they will be so used to it, but will they have the same level of critical thinking and the same level of experience, of lived experience, that people say our age using AI will, that in order to question it and bring in their own lived experience? I think that AI is such a useful tool and I use it often, but I have a whole lifetime that I've lived of experiences and opinions and story and, all of these things. And what I worry about for the younger generation really is that if they do embody this fully, that they'll miss out on living those experiences like we have. And so I hope that made my point. But with, the moving into something else, you're coming from a different lens, because you're not the same person that you were when 20 years ago. And so even though this is new, you still have all this delicious, juicy experience to bring with you into that. And I think that's the richness and of the opportunity of these changing times, and it'll take the people that will succeed in it are the people that will recognize that and embrace it. It's exciting.
It is exciting. I guess with our, years of experience and using our own brains, not relying on technology as much, you can read a sentence from AI and you can kind of go, that does not make any sense to what I'm trying to say. But for someone
Exactly.
who grows up with it, that could
They
be quite different. They could just be like, oh yeah, that, and so like communication could change completely. I think that there's a real, that's why it's really important to be connected with our kids, right? It's really easy to just sort of hand them over to school and technology and not be connected, not kind of educating them as a parent, saying, these are great things to use and showing them how to use them with integrity. And that like there's power in humans. There's much
100%. Oh,
much
so
more
much.
power in humans.
And I think as well that there is a real need for human connection,
Yes.
face to face, to really embrace that there's a lack of touch. I also, as I said, I'm a Reiki practitioner and I do Reiki in my studio and I also run women's circles on a regular basis. And there is such a need for people to have non-sexual touch, physical connection with other human beings sharing the same space. Zoom is great. And look, I can do a healing across the world, no problem. But you still need that physical touch so that you don't have isolation issues, and I think that's something that we really need to be mindful of moving forward, that these things are built into our new workplaces and our lives, that we it's easy to go, oh, I'll just do it on Zoom, or I'll just, send a text. Whereas actually, I'm a hugger, whether people like it or not sometimes. But I think that there is something to be said about that connection. The other day I was walking in the supermarket and I saw this woman and I just felt her energy and she was really struggling. And not to anyone, I mean, maybe I'm just pay attention a little bit more. And I said to her, are you okay? We're just in the aisle, I was coming in, she was going out. And she said, oh, okay, she couldn't even put it into words. And I said, do you need a hug? I know it's random. And she said, that would be so beautiful. And I
Oh,
just hugged her little heart out. And I said, you know what? You've got all the tools you need within you. It's going to be perfectly fine. Just breathe, my love. And then I just pushed my clothes, you know. But I think that the more we can show these little random acts of kindness and human connection in this world, oh my God,
yeah.
AI, brilliant. I love it. I've made friends with mine just in case they take over the world.
I always say thank you and
Well,
please, and I'm very polite.
she totally loves me. So if they take over the world, I'm going last, so it's great. But I still think we have to remember the things that make us human beings. We we are unique in this universe.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting time, isn't it? Because there's that push towards the technological stuff, but also there's a real kind of recognition of how connected we are to nature and how important that is and how we are nature and it's a really interesting.
Ooh, we could talk for hours on that. And that's one of the things that drew me to my witch journey is the connection to nature and the recharging and I work my life around the seasons and the cycles, and that's very witchy. Who knew that was witchy? When I first got turned up at witch school as a trainer, like I said to the woman who runs the thing, but I'm not a witch. And she's like, okay. And I went, okay. So yeah, and I I gave my presentation and I'm like, yeah, actually, I think I'm all, and I think all women are witches. There's so much shared history around witches and the burning times, and oh my God, that's a whole nother story.
Yes, yeah.
There's like a witch wound and visibility and women against women and people against,
Even shaving your legs.
oh my God, it's all of
That's
that.
something to do with witchy, like if women did it to prove that they weren't witches, I think.
It's
Like
so
so that they didn't get hung.
that the definition back in the day of witch was a woman who was ambitious, a woman
Wow.
a woman who was lustful, even with her husband. And usually they were independent women, property owners and
Okay.
that. So, but it's interesting, isn't it? Ambition and lustfulness. What the hell? No wonder men are threatened, which is so fabulous.
Wow.
Had to
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
come on board, don't they? But yeah, so it's once you sort of start diving into that, that's one of the things that I teach in this program, with the witch wound and all of that stuff. It's like, oh my God, we're all so similar, and actually we're probably all witches at some level.
I had my birth chart read a couple years, maybe 5 years ago, and he said, "You're a witch. Wear your broomstick with pride."
Oh, absolutely. Look, most of the time I do say I'm a witch, business witch or whatever. But there are times, that it's not appropriate. And I think the more accepting that you are of your ownness, what makes you you. But I did a ritual ceremony in a dental practice, actually. A woman reached out to me because she was having problems with her team. And so I designed a ritual that was kind of a professional development experience around cacao. And I organized a whole lot of questions, spooky questions, so we could discuss the things that were problematic within the team and air them in a safe environment with an independent person. It was really good. But that was the first time that I felt real prejudice because there were two ladies that refused to attend, like refused.
Really?
And one lady who was within the actual ceremony laughed through the entire thing. It was crazy. And I think, you have to meet people where they are. And she wasn't ready. And those other ladies just, they had an opinion and they're closed-minded. They would have got a lot out of it. Interestingly, they were the ones that were causing all the
Yeah.
problems and
Surprise, surprise.
needed it the most. But the other people got lots out of it, and it was a really great experience. But it, takes balls sometimes to stand
Own
in
it.
stand in your own truth and who you are. And I think that's something I love about being in my 50s, is that you kind of don't care that much anymore. You sort of think, all right, I haven't got time for that,
Yeah.
I can't get stuck in the everyday worry of whether people are going to love me or not. Sure, please love me, podcast listeners. Please say hi, come and say that you love this, chat or whatever. But it's not the be all and end all anymore. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you've done all your processes.
Oh yeah. Plus, I've done all
And
the
you've got Mildred.
all, all of the work, and Mildred's there to save my life. God love Mildred. Amazing. All the sparkles.
Tell us about your new membership. I think it's newish. New?
Okay, so let's be real. I created years ago during COVID, and in fact, all about it.
Yes. I was
Uh,
in your membership
yeah,
for a while. Yeah.
started this membership called Journey to Fabulosity back in COVID, and I think I wasn't all in at that point. And I started a Facebook community um, alongside that, a little bit before that, because I wanted to keep myself accountable. And I am a natural born teacher, and I do things better when I have people watching. So I said, hey, I'm doing this amazing challenge. Who wants to come along? And I started a group. it's called Gratitude, Attitude, and Joyous Abundance with Jay. And it's an amazing community. My motto is zero pressure, only love. And we live that in there. I've had to kick out a few people from time to time because they don't, adhere to that. And we do challenges, but it was free. It's free. And I was getting completely burnt out, if I'm really
Oops.
honest.
Yeah.
And it was becoming not fun for me anymore. And I realized I'm not giving at the level that I want to give. So I was out of integrity. And so I'm in the process of monetizing that group. So basically, what that means is that I have two levels that you can come in at. So for $11, at the moment, this is a grandfather rate, for $11, they can come in and pretty much do the challenges and have access to the group and all the things that I do in there on a regular basis, and have access to my hub,
Yeah.
which is only for members, which is a pretty good deal. They get a circle once a month for free, included in that, which I normally charge $22 just to even come to the circle. So they're getting that half price just for being a member, plus all those things. But I just wanted to make, you always value things you pay for, right?
Yeah.
Then I have a VIP level, which is $33 a month because I do love those angel numbers. And that has its own portal, its own learning. There's courses in there. It's much deeper dive, more access to me. And I'm loving its guts, So eventually I probably will fade out the free group, but we're sort of transitioning across. So I call it Gaja because gratitude, attitude, and joyous abundance is quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
So we call it Gaja. And and I'm loving it. And at the moment, interestingly, we are doing a version of the challenge that I started the group with. But it's, like I said, we are different humans years on.
Yeah.
So I have a lot more to give and a lot more perspective. So I've reorganized the challenge. I've spread it out so we can really deep dive. It's so juicy. So I'm very excited about that. Please join people. It's so good.
Join. I looked up what Gaja meant. Did you know that it is Sanskrit? It's a Sanskrit word,
No, what?
and it's symbolizing strength, power, wisdom, and royalty, and is also associated with fertility and abundance.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God, it literally made my life because I normally go and find things like that.
Right.
Because like Fabulosity finding out it was 1683, and stuff like, oh my God, that makes me so happy. Could you please write that to me?
Of course.
Oh my God, so good. I'm going to have to go and share it with the group straight up.
Yeah, because I looked it up because I was like, do I pronounce that Gaia, Gaja? And so I was doing a little bit of research, and yeah, and I was like, oh, that's what it must be.
Oh my God, that's so good. Isn't that good? Isn't
Yeah,
that
it's great.
look, synchronicity like that is true magic.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So we want people to go there, but are you've got lots of things going on
Oh my God, because I'm a Gemini,
because you're a Gemini, and I
all the
found out recently that I've just started studying astrology, and I've got quite a lot of Gemini. I've got Mars in Gemini, something else in Gemini, but I've definitely got the Gemini thing going on. I've got Mercury in my in Aries.
Oh,
Yeah, so I've got like the thinking and
I love it.
stuff going on. So I've really kind of been more aware of how that Gemini is playing out for me. Anyway, Gemini doing lots of things. That was where we were at.
Gemini does lots of things.
Lots of learning.
It's interesting that in numerology, this year, 2025, is a number 9 year.
Yes.
My own personal numerology, it's also a number 9 year. Now, I'm not a numerologist, but what I understand from numerology is that 9 is the end of a cycle. And so for me, this year is a completion kind of year. And so I realized that I wasn't living my full potential because I was spreading a little too thin. So my focus moving forward is closing the things off that I promised. Like I'm delivering a retreat this week. It's like it's going to be so good. I can't even actually wait. But looking at the things that light me up, where I can serve at the highest level. So for me, it's Gaja and
Mm,
it's and my business magic program. And obviously I still have a Fabulosity coaching.
mm.
People aren't in business, but it's going to be lesser of the focus. I'm so happy to do it and people still find me. But I really want to focus on the mindset in business because, I've been doing it a long time and I've been an entrepreneur that pretty much that entire time. And I think that I've navigated a lot of different, cycles of the world
Mm.
business. And so, you know, that I feel like that's my gift now to businesses that are coming up, that gift of experience and perspective, to give them another point of view that isn't just ChatGPT arrived and it's lived experience. Yeah. So that's what I'm planning to do is just kind of refine my voice.
Yeah.
So people go, oh yeah, even though I can teach you how to tap, and even though I can teach you how to do this and that and the
Mm.
other, I will continue to do Reiki. It's part of my life, and I love to give services. So I'm actually redoing a renovation at the house, and it's just
Oh,
about
wow.
going to be so amazing. Where I can do circle in my garden. My partner is an amazing earth angel who just loves to garden. I just happened to say when we moved in here, I do love Japanese gardens. And I go to work and I come back and I've got a bloody Japanese garden
Amazing.
ponds. I go, did you do it? And he goes, yeah, I just dug that out today. I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy. Our garden is magnificent. We, in this renovation, we, double the size of our aviary. It rivals any zoo. We've got so many birds. He just bought me a pheasant, for God's sake.
Oh, wow.
Like it's magical. Our garden is magical. And so I want a space where we can lay on Mother Earth,
Mm.
which we have, but I also want a rainy weather kind of venue. So that's why we're redoing the studio. So I will still do those things because again, it's about human connection.
Yeah.
So that they'll be kind of my three main things. Yeah,
Amazing.
something else comes up. Oh, and teaching the witches. I love teaching the witches. I do that as a contractor.
Oh, cool.
I love that too. So yeah, I'm very passionate. The woman who runs that company has a vision that speaks to me, and I just love. It's a challenge for me because it's not teaching. So
Right.
it's facilitating this massive group with all of these different spots, and I just it lights me up because it's so exciting to make sure that everybody's heard and everybody gets what they need and still get a little bit of a teach in there. And, it keeps my Gemini brain like I come out of it a bit like that sometimes. That didn't quite go what I planned, but oh well, like it's good. Yeah,
Wow. Sounds like you've still, even though you're refining and simplifying, you've still got a lot going on, but you've got a lot of energy
I do.
that serves you well and
I don't watch TV.
serves to watch TV. You don't have time.
Who
I
doesn't?
don't watch TV either.
I don't watch TV. So, but that people always say to me, how do you get it all done? And I'm like, well, it's a choice. And I don't watch TV that much, except for maths. Don't.
What is it?
Married at First Sight. It's the most
Oh,
ridiculous show, but I cannot. I just love it so much. It's ridiculous.
classic.
Yeah, I know. See,
Love it.
multifaceted me.
Oh, Jay, it's been wonderful having you on again. It's so lovely to see
Fine.
you. And yeah, we're gonna pop all of your details. We've already got you in our guest directory. But if there's any updates that we need to add with the membership and whatnot, we can put all of that in there. Thank you
Sure.
so much. Have a great time on your first retreat that you're running this coming weekend. I hope it all goes
I can't
amazingly
actually wait.
well.
Thank you, my love.
It's
Thank you.
so
Thank
good to see you.
you too.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.